It's time for the news on QTV. We take a look at stories making headlines. Transport and Communications Minister Brian Mushimba says that the national airline will be launched in the first quarter of 2019. The Zambia National Students Union ZANASU says the government should compensate the family of Vespers Shimozila, the UNZA student who died from suffocation by police tear gas. The Zambia National Union of Teachers ZANUD has appealed to the government to increase the number of teachers to be recruited in 2019. Now the news in detail. The Minister of Transport and Communications, Brian Mushimba, says the national airline will be launched in the first quarter of 2019. Mr. Mushimba has told Parliament in a ministerial statement on the progress made towards the launch of the national airline that the exact date will be communicated once the board is constituted and management of the Zambia Airways 2014 Limited is put in place. He says that the airline, in which government through the Industrial Development Corporation IDC will own 55% shares and Ethiopian Airline 45%, will purely operate on commercial basis without government or political interference. He says government is alive to the fact that a national airline is critical to the attainment of the country's growth aspirations in the aviation sector. Mr. Mushimba says that the national airline will play a catalytic role in the growth of tourism, hospitality, horticulture, trade and manufacturing sectors, as it will create convenient delivery schedules for business and tourists and open traditional routes, thus offer new business opportunities to untapped areas, thereby enhancing revenue collection for the Treasury. He says that the bilateral air service agreements government has signed with other countries will allow shameless passage of Zambia Airways into various countries. The tourism and the minister adds that establishing a national airline will ensure maximum utilization of aviation infrastructure currently being constructed at a total cost of over $1 billion. The minister further states that the national airline will contribute to employment creation in various economic sectors with direct and indirect linkages to its supply chain.
Establishing a national airline will ensure maximum utilization of aviation infrastructure currently being constructed and upgraded at a cost of over $1 billion. The construction and upgrading of aviation infrastructure is being done to reposition Zambia as an aviation hub for the Southern African region. Mr. Speaker, broadly speaking, the national airline will contribute to employment creation in various economic sectors with direct and indirect linkages to its supply chain. Moreover, for every aviation job created, a further 7 more permanent jobs will be created in support sectors. Mr. Speaker, the investment that we are putting in the aviation sector is paying dividends and has resulted in our aviation safety and security being recognized by international organizations such as the Airport Council International of Africa chapter, which recently awarded the Harry Mwanga Nkumbula International Airport with the award of Best Airport and Best Improved Safety Airport in Africa in the category between 10,000 to 20,000 air traffic movements. Mr. Speaker, as you may be aware, government is establishing a national airline with Ethiopian Airlines as a strategic partner.
The Zambia National Students Union ZANASU has called on the government to hold accountable the police officers responsible for the death of Vespers Shimozila and compensate the family. ZANASU chairperson Linda Mumba has told a media briefing that government should also ensure that meal allowances are paid in good time to avoid a repeat of what happened last week on Thursday. Ms. Mumba says the police should also stop the beating of students during demonstrations. She has further called upon the Minister of Higher Education to lift the suspension of student unions and allow students to choose the leaders they want. Meanwhile, Ms. Mumba says that the ZANASU demonstration, which was scheduled for 12th of October, has been cancelled. She says that the union leadership will be meeting with the police command on the same day, the 12th of October, over the handling of students' demonstrations by the police.
Bring the police officers responsible for the death of Vespers and the injuries of all other victims to book. Compensate the families of Vespers and all those injured as a result of police clampdown. Ensure the meal allowances are paid in time. What is so hard about paying something in time? At the beginning of each month, by revising the payment schedule and the loans and scholarship contract form. Renovate the burnt October hostel at Onza. It's such a sorry sight. It's a very sorry sight. Banning protests by students. Police officers should not only be posted on the perimeter of the universities. No, they should also be posted elsewhere. Like, you know, when the demonstration is happening, some of the guys are in the road and they're trying to get the attention of the public. The police should not go inside the hostel. That is not right. Cease the beating of students. 8. Release the report on the police brutality that occurred at the Copperbelt University on 7th October 2017. And bring the perpetrators to book. Lastly, leave the suspension, the banning of student unions, and allow students to choose a form of leadership that they want.
And ZANASU President Mishek Kakonde has demanded that those responsible for the death of Miss Vespers be fired with immediate effect.
And it's like a lot of people are taking this country as a place for mediocrity. So hence, whoever was involved in killing Vespers has to be fired with immediate effect, and that is our fight and position. Because we are not going to allow a country where, you know, what is abnormal is considered to be normal. And as ZANASU, we ensure that although we are going into this dialogue process, as long as someone had fired a gangster, they need to be fired with immediate effect. Engage, that is publicly to the media, and we also appreciate silent dialogue. So we have two circus behaviors here. So we first start with the people that have availed themselves, that is the police, and the commander has agreed to say we meet tomorrow. Then thereafter, we follow up with the mediocrity that has been exerted in the Ministry of Higher Education. If it means closing the office of someone, it will be so. And
Republican President Edgar Chagwa Lungu has been urged to reinstate students' unions in order to ensure continued progressive dialogue in the learning institutions such as the universities. Zambia National Education Coalition ZANEC Executive Director George Hamusunga says the continued intolerance of divergent views by the government and the banning of students' unions by the Minister of Higher Education is the cause of the problems at institutions of higher learning. Mr. Hamusunga says the banning of students' unions is a violation of academic freedoms in higher learning institutions. He says that this is because students are deprived of representation and therefore have no platform for dialogue on matters affecting them. And Mr. Hamusunga has told QTV News that there is need to design a deliberate professional development program for the police which will promote a human rights-based approach in their handling of students at higher learning institutions. Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry Permanent Secretary Kayula Siame is hopeful that the three countries involved in the development of the Lobito Corridor will soon come up with a roadmap for developing the corridor in order to increase port usage from 25 to 50%. The Lobito Corridor, which traverses 4 provinces in Angola, 4 provinces in DRC, and 2 provinces in Zambia, in terms of regional trade, is a very large market for goods and services, and it will offer an alternative, shorter export and import route between the 3 countries once developed. Speaking at the trilateral Lobito Corridor Trade Facilitation Project consultative meeting in Lusaka, Mrs. Siame says a grant of $8.1 million US dollars has been provided by the African Development Bank to finance some activities aimed at meeting part of the investment requirements on the corridor over the next 3 years. She noted that the Lobito Corridor project will make a significant contribution in ICT through the procurement of ICT software and hardware for business development services to institutions such as the Solwezi Chamber of Commerce, PACRA, ZRA, among others. Mrs. Siame adds that the project will help expose SMEs or empower SMEs in agriculture, basic manufacturing and construction with the skills for value addition.
I wish to appreciate the cooperation and efforts of the governments of the Republic of Angola and the Congo, the Republic of the Democratic Republic of Congo, in making this corridor a viable alternative route. As you know, Zambia is a landing country, and for us, corridors are very, very critical for us to have routes that we can use to export our products. So we are very, very grateful that this is one of the alternative markets that we will use to also look at how our products can be exported out of our country. And in addition to that, we believe that as developing this corridor will also improve the lives of the people that are living in this corridor, as I mentioned, in the northwestern part of Zambia, the Congo part of Zambia. We believe that this corridor will have a very, very positive impact and have a positive impact on economic diversification, development inequalities, business environment development, which are key pillars in our 7th National Development Plan. And this will ensure that no one will be left behind. It is therefore very important that these meetings, such as this, will provide a very practical roadmap that we can implement. So I'm hoping that once we have the roadmap put in place, it will ensure that we can increase the usage of this Lobito corridor from the current 25 to more than 50%. So you can see there's a lot of work that we need to do in order to double the kind of trade that we are doing at the moment. So that will be our target, that through this project we expect to see a remarkable and significant increase in the trade that will be done and the utilization of this port going forward.
And Lobito Corridor Trade Facilitation Project Coordinator Stephen Malubila shared the current stage of the project development. You're still watching QTV Main News. The Zambia National Union of Teachers, ZANUD, has called on the government to increase the number of teachers to be recruited in the year 2019. ZANUD General Secretary Newman Bubala says that if the country is to have quality and improved education, there is need to seriously invest in education. Mr. Bubala says there are thousands of qualified teachers who are on the street looking for employment, hence the need to increase the number of teachers to be recruited. He says increasing the number of teachers to be recruited will help sort out the challenges of teacher-pupil ratio the country has faced. And Mr. Bubala says that while the allocation of 10% of the teachers to be recruited to persons with disabilities is a good news, it will fall short of what was expected.
Recruitment of 2,000 teachers is a drop in the ocean. It's not even enough. Suffice to say that if we are going to improve education, if we are going to have quality education, we need to seriously invest in education. So first of all, with the budget coming from 17 coming down to 15%, doesn't even help the situation at all. Because we need to recruit at least every year 10,000 teachers. Even the teacher-pupil ratio will be improved. But what we are seeing now is that the 2,000 who are going to be recruited, it's not even here and there. We have 1,000 of the teachers in the street. So we appeal once again. We want to constitute a team together with the Congress to meet the Minister of Finance and to seriously reconsider education. You can not be at 17 and then go down. It would even be better to maintain the status quo. But even going down, it's not good for us.
The Barotse National Freedom Alliance, BNFA, has opposed the directive by the President for the police to be the ones to investigate the death of a fourth-year student at the University of Zambia, Vespa Shimunza, who suffocated after police fired tear gas in students' hostels. In a walk-in interview, BNFA trustee William Harrington has told Q News that the police are an interested party and therefore cannot be expected to carry out an independent investigation. Mr. Harrington says the outcome of investigation of such nature carried out by the police are never made public. He says the alliance welcomes the decision by the Human Rights Commission to carry out its own independent investigation into the matter. Mr. Harrington has, however, urged the Human Rights Commission to be consistent and proactive as it carries out the independent investigation in the matter, stating that the Commission remains silent over the violation of human rights in and around the country and the Barose land in particular. He has since expressed sadness and shock over the unfortunate circumstances in which Vespers lost her life, further conveying condolences to the Shimunzila family. Mr. Harrington says for the BNFA, the death of Vespers is a sad reminder of the January 2011 Mongo disturbances where many unarmed and defenseless people died through tear gassing and shotguns at the hands of the police.
For the Barose National Freedom Alliance, the death of Vespers Shimunzila is but a sad reminder of the January 2011 so-called Mongo disturbances, where unarmed and defenseless Barotseland nationals died through tear gassing and gunshots at the hands of overzealous state agents. In particular, we recall that a very elderly woman who was asthmatic and bedridden at Limulunga village near Mongo died from tear gassing because she could not escape the fumes. A little baby also died from tear gas inhalation. We do not support the directive by President Edgar Chagwa Lungu that the police institute investigations on themselves over the death of Vespers because the police are an interested party and cannot be expected to carry out an independent investigation. In any case, outcomes of such investigations are mere academic exercises, as the reports and the findings are never made public. For example, the Dr. Roger Chongwe Commission of Inquiry report and recommendations on the January 2011 disturbances I alluded to earlier, where many lives were lost and the report remains a state secret.
Support for vulnerable children and active leadership Sovuko founder Eugene Machona has blamed the political party leaders in the country for the delayed national political dialogue process. Mr. Machona says if political leaders are serious, the national dialogue could have been concluded by now, and that what is currently obtaining in the political arena could have been avoided. He has told QTV News that the delay to hold the national dialogue raises questions on the future of the country. Mr. Machona has since challenged the ruling PF and the opposition UPND to explain to the country what is holding them back from holding the national dialogue when all other stakeholders are ready and willing to hold the long-awaited national dialogue. Mr. Machona says politicians should put the interest of the people first and not their personal agenda.
Our belief is Zambia is divided into provinces. By now we are made to believe that actually Zambia is divided into political parties. Where are that unit gone? What is it taking so long for our leaders to come together, put their difference aside for the benefit of everyone? What has happened to the politics of our late presidents? The likes of His Excellency the late Mwanawasa, the late Michael Chirufya Sata, the late Chiruba. What has happened to that kind of politics we to see? Where today His Excellency the late Sata, who offer positive criticism to Mwanawasa, to His Excellency. Before you realize, you find what he was challenged on 2 days ago has come into implementation for the benefit of everyone. That's how politics should be, where you are able to listen to the opposition, and if what they are saying makes sense and has got potential to deliver the agenda, then implement it. If the ruling party is doing something good, which is worth giving praises, whether from the opposition, then give thanks praise it. But we are living in a world where the good thing you'd rather keep them to yourself. If you offer those positive criticism to the government of the day, they are not ready to take it. Because they will say, if we apply their ideas, tomorrow it will be looking more like they are the ones that are ruling through us. Equally, the opposition parties, they also feel the same. What does that?
Palestinian ambassador to Zambia, Walid Hassan, says his country still relies on the support of countries like Zambia in the realization of a two-state solution with Israel. Dr. Hassan says Palestine believes that the attainment of a two-state solution and stability in the Middle East region will not happen without the help of African countries like Zambia. Speaking when he called on Minister of Justice Given Luwinda at his office, Dr. Hassan says Palestine, which has had an embassy in Zambia since 1984, looks forward to more bilateral relations with Zambia. He has since extended an invitation to the Zambian government to consider sending officials to visit Palestine and see the situation on the ground firsthand.
I believe that our embassy, which is here in Zambia since 1984, can share with Your Excellency with other institutions here in Zambia to further develop the relations between the two countries and in the interest of the two countries and two peoples. Really would like, of course, to have the Zambian ministers, officials to visit Palestine to see the situation in the ground and to help the Palestinian people continuing its.
And Mr. Luwinda has assured the Palestinian envoy that Zambia chooses which country to be friends with based on shared values. Mr. Luwinda says the friendship that Zambia has with Palestine should not therefore be measured against the friendships that the country has with other nations and vice versa. He says in view of the extended invitation, members of the Zambian government will in this case be keen to visit Palestine.
We choose friends based on the shared values and common principles. So our friendship must not be measured against the friendships that we may have with other nations, or the friendships that Zambia has with other nations. Our friendship is bilateral and mutual. And thank you for the invitation. I'm sure that members of my team and generally members of the government will be keen to come and visit Palestine, but also be our link to the Arab world and encourage more and more people to come and visit Zambia.
Tobacco Board of Zambia, TBZ Chief Executive Officer James Kasongo says that the board is engaging some South African companies to exploit further research on the use of tobacco as a biofuel and medicinal product in Zambia. Mr. Kasongo tells Q News in an interview that tobacco is helping in driving the economies of countries such as the United States and South Africa, and that the board is committed to ensuring that tobacco equally drives the economy of Zambia. He says Zambia has good climatic conditions for growing tobacco, hence the need to ensure that tobacco is grown at a large scale. Mr. Kasongo is optimistic that the engagements and results of the research with the South African companies on how Zambia can use tobacco for production of medicines and biofuel will soon be concluded and released respectively.
You know, the tobacco industry is a very, very important industry in Zambia. And as I said earlier, that in our neighboring countries, tobacco is actually helping them to drive their own economy. And also in Zambia, we are blessed. We have got the tobacco buyers now. We have got some companies that want to enter into processing and manufacturing. And we have got a broad base of the growers. So I mean that actually we are actually positioned to be able to actually grow our tobacco industry. We have a good climate and everything is there. And just as an example, for example, we have been able to increase our production this year to 30 million. Tobacco, apart from the fact that it is smoked, it also has got some other uses, which now the Tobacco Board of Zambia is working with some companies in South Africa to try to see how we can exploit further research on the use of tobacco as a biofuel and also its medicinal capabilities. So hopefully maybe in the coming few years or so we may come up with those results that probably will also position tobacco again as a fuel, medicinal crop and also as a biofuel crop, which will also be better.
The Zambia Revenue Authority says it has issued another tender to tax agents to collect tax on its behalf. ZRA Corporate Affairs Manager Topsis Kalinda says the tender for the tax agent will cover base tax, presumptive tax, rental income tax and the turnover tax. He has appealed to local business entities to bid for tenders to collect tax on behalf of the authority. Mr. Skalinda has told QTV News that it is in the interest of the authority and the country to ensure that the local business houses are given a priority in the awarding of contracts to enable them contribute to the country's economy. Finance Minister Margaret Mwanakatwe recently signed a statutory instrument number 48 of 2018 which allows ZRA to appoint private agents to collect different taxes on its behalf.
And we are looking at 4 different tax types. In particular, we are looking at base tax, presumptive tax, and rental income tax, together with turnover tax. These are the tax types that where we are looking for agents, and we are appealing to all Zambians out there to make sure that they apply as tax collection agents, as institutions, to try and just beef up their liquidity by making sure that they help us collect on behalf of government the much needed resources. The whole idea why the Zambia Revenue Authority is trying to appoint agents is that, as you know, the informal sector has not been tapped, and we are trying to tap into that sector, and we are limited in terms of our numbers, our geographical setups. Therefore, in the areas where we
The Zambia Railways Limited has handed over 38,000 kwacha to Chikonkomene Railway Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society Limited in Achsamba district of Central Province for the construction of the Chikonkomene Railway Station passenger waiting hall. ZRL Chief Executive Officer Christopher Msonda says that this is the first ever passenger waiting hall at Chikonkomene Station and would therefore add value to the community. Speaking during the handover ceremony, Mr. Msonda has noted that for a long time, Chikonkomene Railway Station has been operating without a waiting hall, causing passengers to seek shelter in nearby villages and enduring long hours in extreme weather conditions such as heat, rain, cold, and dust winds. Mr. Msonda says the construction of the waiting hall will improve Zambia Railways Limited passenger service operations, increase revenue, and contribute to the development of the area. He says the facility will have a ticket office, kiosk veranda, toilets, as well as bathrooms.
Going ahead by the end of this ceremony to donate some check to you. We have already deposited part of that money in the bank last week, and the balance to make 38 will be donated now. So we are very grateful you have cooperated. It makes it easier for us to participate in this project because of your cooperation and unity. We are also worried that this money should not divide you. Our participation in this project should not divide the community here. So far, we've been united, one cause, one something here at Chikonkomene. Once we put up this facility, we shall be able.
Speaking at the same event, Samba District Commissioner Martin Choa has commended the railway company for the joint partnership. Mr. Choa says that most of the passengers using the rail service were traders from surrounding farms and villages who transport their produce to the city. He notes that once completed, the facility will contribute to the economic growth of the country, adding that the Chikonkomene station was one of the busy stations, servicing over 150 passengers per train.
The station has been operating without a passenger waiting hall and sanitation facilities for years now, a situation which has forced the community to seek shelter in nearby villages and farms while braving different weather conditions. I'm extremely happy that the initiative undertaken by the two parties in implementing this huge task will not only provide passengers with comfort as they use the rail service, but also allow them to use suitable sanitation facilities. You can agree with me that such an area with economic activities requires infrastructure support such as this one. I can proudly say that the community here is contributing to the economic growth of the nation. As Chisamba District Administration, we pledge our continued support to programs such as this one with the focus of improving the lives of the people in rural communities.
On that note, we end the news. Thank you so much for your time, and of course, on behalf of the whole entire newsroom, it's bye-bye.